Carolyn, you've been talking about generating growth for 2011 and you focused on a company called Aggreko. What do you see as the biggest developments for Aggreko this year? What are the key things that they're focusing on and perhaps what might cause investors concern for the future?
For me, the biggest overriding development recently has been the award of the Olympic contract. And this is worth £37 million for Aggreko, and effectively it means Aggreko will be the sole energy supplier, the exclusive energy supplier for the Olympics and the Paralympics next year. Now what that means in general terms is that Aggreko will supply all the power generators, all the temporary power solutions that the Olympics will need. Aggreko will be able to do that. On the back of this contract, they've also won the opportunity to be an official sponsor for the Olympic Games, which from a brand awareness image, from an international business profiling image, is obviously second to none. So for me, that's certainly the biggest development. In terms of the risks and the downside, the Olympic development is one thing next year, but this year there's not an awful lot of one-off, there is a lack of one-off events to get your teeth into. So last year, revenue of £90 million was generated from the World Cup and the Winter Olympics. Next year, we've obviously got this huge Olympic Games contract now, but this year there's not really an awful lot there. Sure, you've got the one-off music events, you've got the one-off sporting events, you've got the regular contracts with the miners, the manufacturers, the oil and gas, but there's nothing on the scale of the Olympics or the World Cup in 2011.
You also focused on the subject of gold. What sort of factors are most influencing the gold price at the moment?
I think the overriding factor is inflation. Because of quantitative easing, government intervention, inflation is huge on a global scale now, and inflation will be the biggest driver of gold price for 2011. There are also other demand factors such as weakness in currency, which is driving investors towards gold, and the fact that in banks and building societies, investors are getting a negative real interest rate. Therefore, they're not sacrificing anything by holding gold, which is a store of value and a store of purchasing power. On the supply side, we've now peaked gold production for at least 2 years. So there's nothing further that the gold suppliers can produce, even no matter how high the price goes. We will see supply not being able to meet the demand, therefore the price will remain very high.
So that's the upside. What risks are there for investors in gold?
I think there's no yield, so obviously you've got to be a pure growth investor. There are a lot of risks associated with investing in gold and other commodities. You've got the currency translation factor because all commodities are priced in dollars. So if you're buying in sterling, you've obviously got that influence. And the fact that a lot of governments and hedge funds and pension funds are now jumping on the bandwagon for gold. It means that the original fundamental supply and demand factors aren't there, and the real price is driven a lot by speculators, and real private clients need to be aware of this fact that as speculators move in, markets move very fast, volatility increases, and it's certainly not one for the faint-hearted, but for a braver investor, there's an awful lot of potential out there.